Well, you know what that music means? That means it's showtime.
I need a theme song like that. I feel like that would make me more legit if I had like a graphic like Chris Saliza.
Well, I need to move my thing down because that'll make me more legit. I was like, look, I can't see. Do you have progressives?
No, I don't. I'm not as old as you. I look older. I look older than you, but I'm not as old as you.
Hello, Chris Saliza.
Hello, Don.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Lemon Live at 5, but it's not actually 5 o'clock. So good evening. We're a little bit late tonight because we're actually doing some experimenting with this new time this week because, this is just ahead of the GOP convention, okay? And so we want to sort of be in sync with that. And Chris Saliza is agreeing with that strategy.
I like that strategy.
Yeah. Are you ready for the convention?
I think I like this time a little better.
Why is that?
I don't know. I feel like 7 is the new 6. Like I just think it's like people are sort of, want to rehash kind of the day and both where we've been and where we're headed. And I think by this time, most of the stuff that's going to happen has happened. So we can sort of talk about it as opposed to being like, I always worried about that. Like if I was the host of like a 1 p.m. cable show, it's so hard because it's like, a lot of things developing because you just don't know what, it's hard to say like what happens. Like stuff happened late this afternoon as it relates to Biden. That's a big deal.
I hosted a 1 p.m. cable show and it's so weird because it used to be just people watching in their offices.
Yeah.
So no one at home and no one who had a regular job had no idea who I was and had never seen my show. And so, how
I always say like, who watches cable at 1? It's like, congressional offices, and then the people who work for the big cable companies. That's your audience.
Yeah. Well, look, things are different than when I started because it used to be that people didn't watch on their phones, right? So now people can actually watch on their phones.
That's
but
true.
Before, and the only people who had televisions in their offices were people who worked in media.
Yep.
So we thought like everybody's saying, I'm at work. And it's like, you're not watching. It's like, no, I'm at work. You don't have a TV in your office? No, Don, I don't work in media.
No.
So listen, the news of the day we're going to talk about with Chris Saliza. Dems are still in disarray. However, they seem far less in disarray right now. I don't know if it's real or not. So to break it down, we have a perfect guest for us, and that is none other than Mr. Chris Saliza. He's my former old beloved colleague at CNN, and he's the founder of the So What Substack newsletter and YouTube channel. Definitely. So he's going to go give him a follow. Okay. And a like and subscribe. So thank you for joining me, my friend. Here's what we're going to talk about. Democrats say that they are riding with Biden. And we're going to talk about if that's real or not, right? Trump world is preparing for the RNC convention. And we're going to play a lot of sound bites and get you to respond to people who are saying that the current president should drop out and those who are saying they are riding with Biden. So Democrats in the House and Senate, they huddled today as lawmakers return to Capitol Hill for the first time following the president's debate last month. House Democrats gathered for a closed-door caucus meeting with Representative Greg Meeks of New York, and they described the two reporters as a listening session. Representative Lloyd Doggett of Texas, who was the first Democratic lawmaker to call on Biden to step aside last week, he told reporters that he made the case for a replacement for the president in the meeting. At the same time, a number of lawmakers, including Rep. Steny Hoyer of Maryland, Hank Johnson of Georgia, and Juan Vargas of California, signaled support for the president as they walked in and out of the meeting. We're riding with Biden. Guess who said that? His pal, James Clyburn, South Carolina. A longtime friend of the president. Yeah, he is a good pal to have. He's a good man, too. That's what he told reporters, calling the meeting very positive, okay? So, Chris, his allies were reportedly worried that the drip, drip, drip of calls for him to step aside would accelerate this week. They're concerned about the narrative in the media. They're concerned about what's happening with Democrats. It seems, though, that that's not happening. Look what happened with Mark Warner, Senator Warner. He said he had this coalition of people who wanted to get the president to, and then all of a sudden he's standing there on the courthouse steps by himself. So I want to play this compilation. It's from different Democratic lawmakers. They are voicing support for Biden. And note, you're going to see personalities from all sides of the caucus, establishment folks like Hakeem Jeffries and Nancy Pelosi. They're there. They're the big dogs, right? As are members of the progressive caucus like AOC and Jayapal. So watch this and I'll get your response.
declare publicly the day after the debate that I support President Joe Biden and the Democratic ticket. My position has not changed.
But that's Biden and the Democratic ticket. Do you support Biden on the ticket or just Biden and whatever the ticket is?
Same answer.
We have a great president. He has a great record working with us, a great record of achievement, and I'm hopeful that he will be the next president of the United States.
I had spoken to the president over the weekend. I have spoken with him extensively. He made clear then, and he has made clear since, that he is in this race. The matter is closed. He had reiterated that this morning. He has reiterated that to the public. Joe Biden is our nominee. He is not leaving this race. He is in this race, and I support him.
I really do believe that the more members of our caucus who speak directly to him, the more confident they will feel. So I've encouraged the White House to make sure that the president does as much outreach as possible, or not the White House, but the campaign, that the president does as much outreach as possible.
All right, listen, I'm not here to give advice to my colleagues. They all have independent districts and things that they feel like they have to do. I do think that we should continue to have whatever conversations we need to have with our constituents, with our colleagues. We should have them in private.
Okay, so what do you make of that, Chris? Because the statements, those are statements of support. What's up with the seeming 180 among this 180, I should say, among Democrats? Because they were like, hey, they were nervous right after the debate, and now they're saying we're riding with Biden.
Yeah. So the one that struck me the most is Jerry Nadler from New York. Very prominent, very senior, head of a committee, right? He's been there a really long time. So on a call they had Sunday night with House members, Democrats, he comes out and says, like, I think Biden needs to step down. He can't win. Then Monday, so like less than 24 hours later, he's like, well, Biden's staying in, so I'm with him. I'm like, you just said the opposite. So there definitely is a switch. I guess so what occasions that? Like, why? Right? It seems to me that it's Biden, and this started with George Stephanopoulos, but really picked up Monday with the letter he sent to Congress and the interview he did with Morning Joe, in which he basically said, like, it's like Omar from The Wire, right? If you come at the king, you best not miss. He basically said that. He said, like, look, if people want me out, they should try to beat me at the convention, right? Like, I'm not getting out.
And he has every right to say that. I mean,
absolutely.
He is the guy.
He won. Look, he won the Democratic primary. Wasn't even close. I would argue circumstances have changed somewhat, but yes, Biden can make that argument. To me, I think Democrats are making. I always thought they had a big risk. They were making a huge gamble that Biden at 81 years old would be able to go out and campaign actively and do everything he needs to do, given the concerns that voters already had. To me, that risk is even bigger now post-debate, just because we saw an example of, like, okay, this is when he's clearly not at his best. This can happen. So it's a gigantic risk. I will say, I would have said, if I talked to you 2 days ago, I would have probably said 70-30 Biden doesn't make it on the ticket. He steps off, he's ushered off, whatever. And now I think it's like 55-45 he stays. Now, I don't think that is the best thing for Democrats, because I just don't think the problems that he has are going to go away. And I think he is a clear underdog at this point. I think he was a slight underdog before the debate. I think he's a clear underdog now to Donald Trump. But in terms of his ability to remain the Democratic nominee, clearly trending upward.
Wow. I was just thinking, look, maybe people looked older back then, because remember when I was growing up, all the presidents seemed old. I mean, Kennedy didn't seem old. I wasn't around when Kennedy was around, but I mean, Nixon certainly seemed like an older man, but maybe they weren't old.
He was not old.
Yeah. And so I was like, what happened to the respect we had for old people, even if they, did say things that were out of sorts? We just said, yeah, that's Mr. Biden.
I mean, I totally get that. And like, I do think there's always still like that uncle or like grandmother or someone
Uncle
who says
Joe,
something and
yeah.
you're like, Grandma, you can't talk like that.
But now he's kind of Grandpa Joe. Yes.
But my issue is like, my mom is 76. She's pretty with it. She doesn't, I mean, like, but she'll forget stuff occasionally. She'll miss words, whatever. She'll forget stuff I told her. And it's totally fine. And I'm not like, Mom, you need to resign. The issue is Joe Biden I don't know what she'd resign from, but Joe Biden is the president of the United States. I mean, that to me is what I always come back to. Like, I get it. I'm not saying that he is incompetent. I'm not saying that he is losing it, but I am saying like, this is the most important and stressful and high profile job in the world, literally. And, you have to really be at the top of your game to do it. I'll add, I don't know that Donald Trump has demonstrated he's at the top of his game. I mean, like, I think we have to factor that in. Donald Trump is not 51 years old and in the prime of his life and his health. Terrible eating habits, always has, overweight, weird sleep patterns if his sort of tweets and stuff are indicative. So, I mean, it's not like Biden is running against like... Sounds
like you're describing me.
I know, seriously. But it's not like myself, too. It's not like Biden is running against like, Mr. Olympia, you know what I mean? Like he's running against Donald Trump. I get that. I'm just saying, I'm not sure. I think both of them are too old to be president, candidly. Mm-hmm. I don't know that a 78-year-old man or an 81-year-old man should have this level of responsibility and job.
I think it's his choice, but I'm saying for myself, I wouldn't want to do it. I would not want to do it now, and I'm in my 50s. So are you surprised to see folks like Pramila Jayapal and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? Yeah. I mean, it was just not long ago where they were literally accusing him of green lighting genocide, and they're proclaiming now their support for him.
The AOC soundbite you played is remarkable to me, which is she's basically saying like, Joe Biden says he is running, and therefore the conversation about whether Joe Biden is our best nominee and the best person to beat Trump is over. It's like, it doesn't make a ton of logical sense to me because I just keep returning to the thing that Democrats told me, including people like AOC, told me over and over and over again, which was, look, this is not about Democrat versus Republican fundamentally. This is now about saving democracy or potentially ending democracy, right? That Donald Trump, and I think this is slightly overblown, but that Donald Trump is going to end democracy.
You think that's overblown? Are you crazy? Are you out of your damn mind?
Not because, let me explain, not because I don't think Donald Trump has dictatorial impulses. He does. And authoritarian leanings. He does. Because I still think, and I know people will point to the Supreme Court ruling on immunity, but I still think there are enough institutional pillars in place, including the media, that even if Donald Trump wanted to, I don't think he would turn the U.S. into a dictatorship in 4 years. That's my view. I'm not saying he doesn't want to. I'm saying the system, I believe the system will hold. Now, that, I get that is not a widely held belief by lots and lots of people on the left, but so I just think
can I just say one word and 4 numbers for you?
Yes.
What am I going to say? Project 2025.
Project 2025. I probably should have figured that out. Yes. Yeah. I agree. I don't know. Maybe I'm naive. I'm somewhat divided on Project 2025 in that, like, I don't really think Donald Trump likes to be told what to do. I think he likes to think that he came up with every good idea. So I'm not sure he's just like, oh, okay, I'll just do all these things. At the same time, Donald Trump is someone who is largely without any real policy ideas. So if you give him a bunch of policy ideas, you're filling a gap. So like, I guess I don't know totally how to feel. I mean, I get the worry. I've read half of it, probably. I've not read all of it, the full 900-page document. Probably, and read, I would say skimmed. So I don't want to project myself as like some, super expert on it.
I would say you should read it.
Yeah. No,
I would think you may have a different opinion.
Yep. I think that's totally fair. And I do need to. You're exactly right.
So listen, We have some reason to believe now that Democrats are not actually as united as they are pretending to be. And I mean, that's, people say that. That's the reporting. I don't know. I'm going to put up a couple of full screens for you.
Okay.
This is from Heather Cagle. It's a very respected and very trusted reporter from Punchbowl News. And so, sorry, Heather is writing this. Let me get my paperwork together because that's kind of small to read, right?
Yeah.
Heather writes, my Punchbowl colleagues and I have talked to a lot of Democrats and do so quite frequently. I haven't talked to one who privately says they think Biden is capable of running and beating Trump at this point. The debate was just a public airing of concerns many of them have expressed privately. And that was from those who felt they actually got time with the president over the last year. Others have complained about very limited / controlled interactions, but they also don't want to be ostracized publicly and or feel it's already determined that Biden will be the nominee.
Yep.
So notably, Punchbowl and other White House correspondents reported today that multiple House Democrats cried during the caucus meeting.
Yep.
One lawmaker said, quote, felt like a funeral. What do you think? Why are lawmakers crying? And do you believe that reporting?
Yes, absolutely. I think Punchbowl is totally reputable. And by the way, it's not the only. To your point, they're not out on a limb on this. There's lots and lots of reporting about the divide.
Can I just show you as you respond to this? This is what my former colleague and good friend Dana Bash is. She tweeted just a short time ago.
Is this about Sherrod Brown and
yeah. That's what she said. She said, I am told that Senators Mike Bennett, Sherrod Brown, and John Tester told colleagues in today's Democratic caucus lunch that they do not believe that President Biden can win the election.
Yep. And why is that super important? Because Sherrod Brown and John Tester are the two most endangered Senate Democratic incumbents up for re-election, both running in states that Trump won, both of whom probably need to win for Democrats to keep control of the Senate. Yeah. So what's going on here, Don, is like the comparison I draw, people won't like this, but I do, in my mind, what I think of is in 2016, and you know this because you interviewed tons of these folks. In 2016, let's say you had on, I don't know, some rank and file Republican House member, right? And you're like, read him or her all the quotes that then candidate Donald Trump had said, things he said about John McCain, things he said about soldiers, things he said about himself, all his divorces. And they would say like, look, Donald Trump has won the nomination and he's our nominee, right? And then the interview would end, right? And I'm making this up, but I'm certain this happened because it happened to me too. The interview would end and you'd be like, man, what's going on? And they're like, oh, God, Trump. This is wild. That's crazy. I can't believe this is happening. Okay. But they would never say that publicly.
No. How about right out of the commercial break? Like, hey, thanks for coming on, buddy. Good to see you. Yeah. It's crazy. God, I can't believe this guy, whatever. Welcome back, everyone. Joining us now is Chris Johnson. Chris, what about President? Oh, he's the best guy in the world. And you're like,
most patriotic president we've ever had. Totally.
Yes.
Okay. So that happened all the time to all of us who were in media. Now, if you gave truth serum, let's say there are 325 Democrats in Congress, whatever. If you gave truth serum to them and you said, do you think Joe Biden is A, the best nominee for the party in terms of winning, and B, won't hurt your own reelection race? 90% of them would be like, we got to get rid of Biden. But they won't say it publicly. And that's the whole point. You mentioned Mark Warner earlier, Don. I think that's a good point. You know, Mark Warner's talking a big game. We're going to round up this group of Democratic senators. They're going to come out and say it. It's like, okay, I inherently trust Dana's reporting. I always remind people, she made her bones as a congressional producer, then a congressional correspondent before becoming an anchor, right? So like she knows Congress better than anybody.
Dana Bash's reporting?
I do trust Dana Bash's reporting.
You know, I'm totally
Everyone
kidding,
wants you to badmouth CNN after you leave CNN, but like I like those people. I thought they were good reporters.
You know I'm joking, right?
Of course I do.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Like she's right, of course, and it makes perfect sense that Sherrod Brown and John Tester and Michael Bennett would say that. The problem is if they are not fraidy cats, if this is really about winning as opposed to doing something that makes you feel bad for Joe Biden, you got to come out and say it publicly. You got to put your name onto it, right? You can't just talk about it behind closed doors. And I just don't know if enough of them are going to do that because Biden has basically said, like, look, if you want me out, come dig me out. And that means it is going to be awkward and nasty. And, this is an 81-year-old guy. Do you want to be the person who's like, hey, man, time to shuffle off the stage? No one really wants to do that. And I get it.
Look, I got to say that I understand. I understand where they're coming from. And I think I know there's a lot on the line. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But there's some part of me that's saying, what took you so long? You're only 8 years late for the, because Democrats are falling in line instead of wetting the bed. Well, they're wetting the bed and they're falling in line.
Yes.
Now. But, so they usually say Democrats wet the bed and Republicans fall in line. So now, listen, there were so many people who were against Donald Trump. And I mean, it's different because Biden is, the incumbent and what have you. But now they're standing by their guy. And I mean, that's good to see when, from Democrats. I do have to say that.
I'm surprised a little bit that they are, and that it's happened that quickly. But yes, they are. Now I will say, there are still lots and lots and lots of members who are talking on background without their name attached, saying like, we can't, like you quoted it was like a funeral in there. We can't have him be the nominee. So, if they were really in line, they would be like, look, stop bad-mouthing Biden. He's going to be the nominee. It doesn't do us any good to sort of talk bad about him. At the same time, you're right. Like, if you want, Biden is being smart, right? So I thought he was very dumb politically. Look, the debate was a disaster, period. In the 8 days after, I thought they did a lot of dumb stuff, mostly because they didn't do all that much. They just kind of let it fester. Since Monday, I know that's only 2 days, I think they've done a lot of smart things. I thought the Morning Joe thing was smart. I thought the letter to Congress, essentially saying welcome back and I'm running. I think all of that stuff, play offense, right? Make people react to you as opposed to you react to them. So I actually think in the last 48 hours, they've smartened up considerably. And I don't think it's an accident in the last 48 hours. We've seen his chances of holding on as a nominee go up.
Okay. I'm just wondering what people think. I wonder if they believe all the drama that's being reported about Democrats and what Chris is saying, what they're saying behind closed doors. Do you believe, this is the poll that's up now, do you believe the reporting that Democrats cried at today's caucus meeting? So that's the poll up. You guys vote. I don't know. Okay. So it also appears, though, that the Biden diehards, some prominent liberal voices are also still sticking with the president. A lot of them, as a matter of fact. And then I have a couple things that I want to play for you here.
Yep.
So some prominent liberal voices are voicing their support. I played a soundbite of Joe Scarborough yesterday. I want to play this for you. This is a very prominent voice who has a huge platform, probably bigger than Morning Joe, maybe more influential than Morning Joe, with a different demographic. And that's Whoopi Goldberg of The View. Here she is.
I don't care if he's pooped his pants. I don't care if he can't put a sentence together. Show me he can't do the job, and then I'll say, okay, maybe it's time to go. Now, he had a bad night the first time that he went out and debated with Kamala Harris. And everybody wanted him to quit then and say, you can't talk to women like this, or you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong. He came back, said, you know what, I got it, and gave 4 years. So, yeah, I have poopy days all the time. I step in so much poo you can't even imagine. Now, I'm not running the world, but I don't know anybody who doesn't step in stuff at some point. So I'm just simply saying, yeah, there are 2 debates. And if he can't do what he needs to do for the second debate, I'll join any crew that says get rid of him. But loyalty to me, if you are doing the job, I might not like everything you're doing. I don't like it all. But I'm going to stand behind you like those guys stand behind the guy who should have been the person people were talking about, saying, yeah, Biden had a bad day, but this guy couldn't tell the truth if it split his lip.
Okay. So there you go.
Yeah.
What do you think?
The only issue I would take, and look, I'm not trying to like run down the idea of party loyalty. That's fine. The only issue
She sounds like my mom, though.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, there are a lot of folks, I think, who say like exactly what you were saying earlier that I agreed with, which is like, look, anyone could have run against Joe Biden in a primary, right? They didn't make the primary illegal. You could have gotten in. Dean Phillips ran briefly, right? Like Marianne Williamson, I guess, ran, but like there was no like prominent person who ran. So that was sort of your opportunity. He ran, he went by the process. He wasn't 60 when he ran, right? He was 80. So like you knew he was old, and he kind of ran and won the way that the process is laid out. So I get that. And I think that argument is powerful to lots of people. The only thing I would say about Whoopi Goldberg's argument that I don't even know if I disagree with, but I just raise a question is, to me, the reporting, and most of it has come out post-debate. The Wall Street Journal reported before the debate, but most of the reporting, New York Times, Washington Post, those sorts of things came out after the debate, suggests to me that there's at least a question over whether he can do the job well going forward, right? Because we're not talking about 4 more months of a Biden presidency. We're talking about a second term, 4 more years. And so I just think that that's a worthwhile conversation to have, mostly because, again, I return to this, like as a journalist, I trust the reporting. Like I trust when the New York Times reports that increasingly Biden has struggled behind closed doors, and he's had more slip ups, and he's had more forgetful moments, and he's had more times when he forgot. Like I buy that. I'm not one of those people who's like, the New York Times is trying to elect Donald Trump. I just don't, I just don't see it. So like, I would just add that little bit of nuance to it when you're arguing. Like, I'm not arguing, could he do the job? That's not the debate, right? The debate is not, what do you think of Joe Biden's past 4 years in office? The debate is, should this person get another 4 years? And do you believe that in those 4 years he is up to doing the job? That to me
I don't know if that's the question. I mean, and listen, I think the question is, can he beat Donald Trump? I think obviously he can do the job, and I think he has a great team around him. Who knows? The whole thing about the 4 more years, Chris, is like, we don't know who's going to be. I mean, I don't want to be, Debbie Downer here, but who knows what can happen from moment to moment with any of us.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So the idea, I think, for the real question is, can he beat Donald Trump, and who can beat Donald Trump?
Yep.
That's a real question. And in this moment, I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? I would say in this moment, he is an underdog. Now it's 4 months until the election, right? Okay.
And with every day that passes from June 27th, that debate, people will forget a little bit more about the debate. I don't think they forget totally, but they'll forget more. If there's a second debate, I know there's one scheduled. I don't know if it'll happen, but if there's a second debate and Biden is like, to Whoopi Goldberg's point, and Biden is good, maybe the first debate kind of fades, right? And by October, we're not even talking about it. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I think he could win. I just think today, I would suggest that he is like a pretty clear underdog. Again, it's today.
Okay. Another prominent liberal voice, and this one is a politician, a congresswoman. I played it yesterday, but I want you to hear it. This is from a panel that I did at Essence Fest over the weekend. And this is none other than California Congresswoman, the chairwoman of the Congressional Black Caucus, Maxine Waters. Watch.
Not only did we take care of fixing what had gone wrong, because the big banks who always steal from you, who are predatory lenders, had taken advantage of the opportunity dispersed for us. And so we fixed it with the $60 billion. We've got to save what we have done, what we have created. But we're now at a point in time where people are talking about Biden is too old. Hell, I'm older than Biden. Well, please.
Come on now. You look good, Congresswoman.
And I get up every morning.
All right.
And I exercise.
All right.
And I work late hours.
All right.
I take care of black people.
All right.
Trump has told you who he is. He defined himself. He is a no good, deplorable, lying, despicable human being. And he's talking about if he doesn't win, there's going to be a bloodbath. There's going to be violence. There's going to be a civil war. Who the hell do you think he's coming after? Who's going to be targeted? Who is he talking about? But you know he means business because he is the one that led the invasion on the Capitol January 6th. He's the one that caused his people, the Oath Keepers, the Proud Boys, the QAnons, the KKK, they were all out there under his leadership. They attacked us, all of us. They took the American flag with the pole and they beat our Capitol Guards with them. Now, do we have to talk about the difference between these two? Now, I want to tell you, no matter what anybody says, it ain't gonna be no other Democratic candidate. It's gonna be Biden, and we better know it.
There you go. Okay. I was waiting for that part. And you know what I love about this? I can play a soundbite for as long as I want.
Totally.
And the old place said, oh my God, that's longer than 30,
too long
seconds. Oh my gosh, it's way too long. What do you, and standing ovation, and everyone responds to it, and it's going viral on social media.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a disconnect between the chattering class and real America?
Yeah. First of all, important point. Did you not have socks on?
I did not have socks on. As a matter of fact, I forgot them. It was hot as hell there. Yeah. I did not have socks.
Secondly, so I remember distinctly, I was on one of these late night panels at CNN in 2020. I was on from like 11 to 3 a.m. prime time. And it was...
Wait, that must have been me.
I think it was you, actually. I think it was you, because I don't think it was Anderson. I think it was you.
No, that's me.
Bakari Sellers, who folks know, Bakari Sellers, who, if you don't know, is black, breaking news, was on this panel with me. And I think it was after the New Hampshire primary. And I remember saying, so Biden finished, 4th or 5th in Iowa, 5th, I think, in New Hampshire. And I remember saying, like, there is no way that Biden can be the nominee, right? Like, he was the front runner. He's finished 4th, he's finished 5th. And Bakari Sellers said something to me on air, and we disagreed. And he was like, look, like, black people have a massive voice and say in the party, in the direction of the party. He's like, I'm paraphrasing. I just don't think until we hear from South Carolina, which obviously the electorate in the South Carolina Democrat primary is overwhelmingly black.
He was right.
And you're right. Unless we hear from South Carolina. And I remember thinking, like, can I swear on this?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So I remember this is a little swear, but I remember thinking, like, that's bullshit. Like there's just no evidence that that's it. Well, I was
not
wrong.
Swearing.
I know. So
well, listen, I remember.
Right and I was wrong. So I just go back to, like, look, African American voters are the reason that Joe Biden is the president of the United States. If Joe Biden is going to hang on, and I think, again, like I said, I think that's better than a 50-50 proposition, it's because of the sort of unwavering support of Clyburn, Maxine Waters, the CBC more broadly. And I think that I am done underestimating that as a force within Democratic politics.
Okay, so he is being advised, and I know from folks who were I spoke to this weekend at the Essence Festival. He was advised from top Democrats, some of it may be obvious who it is, to go home, and that means to go to the black church, to go speak to black people, because that's what's going to carry the day. And I believe that is true, because I believe that black people have an affinity for Joe Biden because of Barack Obama. He was Barack Obama's vice president. He's had Barack Obama's back. And so that carries a lot of purchase among African Americans. So look, I just think that part they are kind of missing out on. I don't know about young folks, but all the young folks I spoke to there, because it's a young festival, they were like, I'm going for it. I don't care if, they're like Whoopi. I don't care, whatever. If he poops his pants. That's Whoopi's words. Now, There are different folks who are saying different things. Okay. I want to play now some prominent voices on the left who, be different. Can you qualify Jon Stewart as being on the left? Yeah.
Complicated left, but
Okay.
yes, I mean, I would certainly more on the left than in the center or on the right. But,
Okay,
but not like a reflexive left.
Here's Jon Stewart.
I'm staying in the race. I'll beat Donald Trump. I will beat him again in 2020.
I got to tell you, somehow confusion with confidence is even more unsettling. Or when the president sat down with George Stephanopoulos to prove once and for all how cogent he is and to film a bronzer ad. Orange man good? None of this was reassuring. And we're told that the threat of Trump is so great and the stakes are so high that even bringing up these absolutely legitimate concerns about the president's ability to do the most vigorous job in the world for the next 4 years is enabling fascism. Yet even the president doesn't seem particularly alarmed.
If you stay in and Trump is elected and everything you're warning about comes to pass, how will you feel in January?
I feel as long as I gave it my all and I did the goodest job as I know I can do. That's what this is about.
That's not what this is about! There are no participation trophies in endgame democracy. Oh, yeah. I remember FDR saying, well, if the Nazis take over Europe, at least both teams had fun.
Well, so, he's not saying what Whoopi is saying at this point.
No, I mean, look, so I think it's at least worth noting that like Jon Stewart is like a comedian and an entertainer. I mean, I know that particularly during the Bush years, many people on the left saw him as like America's newsman, but like at root, he's an entertainer. Like he's gonna look for material that makes people laugh. And, I mean, I think he's also trying to sort of educate, inform, and offer people some guidance. But like he's not like, there's a big difference for a lot of reasons between, let's just say, like when I think of America's newsman, I think of Anderson Cooper. Like there's a big difference between Anderson Cooper and like Jon Stewart. So at some level, it's like not that surprising. I do think, I mean, he makes a point that I think is important about the next 4 years. Like, it's if you believe Trump is a direct threat to democracy, the most important thing you can do as a Democrat is nominate the person who you believe has the best chance to beat Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I thought for a long time that was Biden. I struggle to still see that, though I admit that Kamala Harris, or I mean, it's not going to be Gavin Newsom or Gretchen Whitmer. These people have their own warts, right? They have their own problems. It's not like they're perfect candidates. But I just think the age thing may wind up, incompetence may wind up being determinative and may lead us to a second Trump term.
I agree with you on Anderson, but there are a couple of people who are in that,
yes,
right, in that what do you want to call it? The
milieu.
Yeah, milieu. And one of them did an interview with the president recently, and that is George Stephanopoulos. George Stephanopoulos was out on the street, allegedly, George Stephanopoulos out on the street, and someone asked him, did you see it? About his interview with Joe Biden and what he thought. Here's what he said.
Okay.
Hey, excuse me. Hey, how you doing? What do you think? Do you think Biden should step down? You talked to him more than anybody else have lately, and you could be honest. You don't think he can serve 4 more years? All right, that's an answer.
That was George Stephanopoulos. Obviously, it looks like he was coming from the gym. I don't know. It's hot in New York. He's wearing shorts, but he's saying, I don't think he can serve 4 more years.
Mm-hmm.
Which is shocking because usually when people ask me stuff like that on the street, like, hey, Dom, what do you think? I'm like, oh, man, I don't want to talk about that. How you doing? You want a selfie? Let's go.
Totally. Never. I always say, assume you're always being taped or on camera, especially now.
But I think George has 0 Fs right now. So
I just don't think he cares. I think that's right. Which I actually sort of admire in a way. I think, like, say what you think. I mean, I'm big into the say what you think era of journalism. Like, like just say like, this is what I think. Here's why I think it. I mean, he obviously didn't say it there, but whatever. Yeah, I'm okay with that. I mean, I thought so. Just quickly on Stephanopoulos, like I actually thought he did like a good job. I didn't think he was like mean. I didn't think he was sort of like overly like you're super old. What's that like? Like I mean, I thought he was fair. I thought he was like to the extent he should be empathetic. I mean, that's a hard interview to do because it's basically like interviewing your grandfather. Like, hey, Grandpa, you're kind of forgetting things, and maybe you shouldn't do this anymore. I mean, that's hard, but except if your grandfather was the president of the United States.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room here, and don't read into that. And I want to talk about Donald Trump. You guys can say whatever you want. He's been quiet really for the last 2 weeks, except for that golf cart moment where I thought it was just, I thought it was in bad taste until last night, actually. He finally commented on the Dems being in disarray during a phone interview with Sean Hannity. Oh, wait, before we get to that, you heard with Jon Stewart about, a bronzer.
Yes.
I have the best take open if I was still in cable news tonight. And I wonder if anyone's going to steal it. Should I?
Yes, let's hear it. You can't tease like that.
Oh, I would open up and I would say, is Joe Biden becoming Donald Trump? He's morphing into Donald Trump. I would show the orange thing. I would show him saying that God, if God comes down, remember when he said, I am the chosen one. I would do the contrast between all of that and all of the Democrats now, the ones that said that they weren't doing it and now they're falling in line. I would do the exact same thing. And
by the way, there's even more to that.
Yes.
Biden in the Stephanopoulos interview and on Morning Joe talked about his crowd size.
Yes. So that's
that's
what I would say. And are Democrats becoming like MAGA, the magnification of the left and the Trumpification of Joe Biden? That would be my open. That would be my open.
So just so you don't think I'm stealing from you, my newsletter published while we've been talking, and the headline is How Democrats Became What They Hated Most, which is exactly to your point, that they're sort of like, they were always like, why are all these Republicans who say privately that they think Trump is the worst and they won't say it publicly? Well, now it's like all these Democrats are saying privately, Biden has to go. It's terrible. We're going to lose everything. And then they won't say it publicly. Like,
but it's so easy. I could go for, oh my gosh, I could go for an entire A block with that.
A Donald.
Oh my gosh, it would be amazing because I would compare the Joe Biden and the orange, and it would just be amazing. And then I would have them on stage talking about their golf and their handicap. It's so easy. It just writes
your own
itself.
bag. Carry your own bag.
It just writes itself. So anyway, here is, and also the calling into Morning Joe.
Totally. The phoner.
It's again, so easy. Okay.
It fits.
Here is Donald Trump on Sean Hannity.
Me, like he may very well stay in. He's got an ego and he doesn't want to quit. He doesn't want to do that. It just looks to me like that's what he wants. I think Jill would like to see him stay. She's having a good time. I notice she really seems to be having a good time. And I'm hearing that Hunter is calling the shots. So this isn't necessarily a very positive thing for our country. But I think he, might very well stay in. And if he does, nobody wants to give that up that way. He's going to feel badly about himself for a long time. It's hard to give it up that way, the way where they're trying to force him out. So,
what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, so I read through the whole transcript of that interview. I wrote about it, and like, I actually think he's right. I do think, by the way, just to note, like 2 minutes after Trump says that he thinks Biden is going to stick it out, he then says, well, I think they're going to replace Trump with replace Biden with Kamala Harris. So like, it's like classic Trump. Like he'd just say whatever. But that clip, I actually think he's right. I think Biden has been in politics since 1970-ish, 1972. He does not want the last chapter of his political life to be he got pushed out of running for a second term because he's too old and people thought he was incompetent. He just doesn't, which I get. Like, I mean, like
I don't know.
CNN laid me off, I didn't want the last chapter of my life to be, and Chris Liza worked at CNN and then they laid him off. Do you know what I mean? Like, of course you like want there to be like more to the story than that. Right. So like, I get that impulse.
I would have no idea what you're talking about. So look, I don't know if I agree with you on that. I actually think that Joe Biden, that was good, right? I actually think that Joe Biden there is altruism in what he's saying. I believe that he thinks that he can win.
I do too.
I believe that he, after he did not want to run in 2016, and some folks said that Barack Obama sat down with him and convinced him not to. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but I think he did want to save democracy. And
I totally agree.
yeah, so I don't believe I would not compare him to Donald Trump. I don't know if Donald Trump is right about that.
No, I think here's what I think. I absolutely agree with you that Joe Biden, in his heart of hearts, believes not only can he beat Donald Trump, but he may be the only person in the Democratic Party who can beat Donald Trump because he's done it once.
Well, nobody else is tested.
Sure
You're talking about all those
people. He's right.
All those people who are let's go through the names, okay? So you have the vice president who is polling better than Joe Biden at this point. I would say, Trini Patsy 61 is in the comments saying he is the only person in all caps. And every time we do, there are people, this Cheryl Gibson, who's in the comments now and a subscriber is mad. She said, you guys are becoming corporate media. We can't discuss. This is what's happening. People are discussing what's happening with Joe Biden. Even he's discussing it. He's writing letters to Congress. He's appearing on shows talking about the same stuff that we're talking about.
If I was corporate media, I'd make more money.
Well, I mean, we couldn't say shit and the F word if we were on corporate media. We're not.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. Like, this is the thing that the media is behind this. Like, Joe Biden is writing letters to Congress. Joe Biden is calling into morning shows. House members and senators are talking, mostly, again, without their name attached to it, about all this. Like, the media isn't like making these people do this. They're doing it. We're covering it anyway.
Yeah. G. Houston, dang, but can you switch it up? I've done 50 million shows about Donald Trump. You do 3 shows about Joe Biden or 4. It's like, oh my gosh, can you guys stop talking about it? Come on, guys, get real. Stop it.
Somebody sent me a note, a subscriber to my Substack newsletter, and they said, I just unsubscribed because all you can talk about is Biden. And I literally went back. And I sent them 35 posts critical of Trump that I had written whenever. And I was like, literally, you guys were complaining you don't write enough about Biden. Like, it's like there's no medium or long-term memory. It's like, dude, the idea that, like, I think that Donald Trump should be I'm working to elect Donald Trump. Like, I just don't get it. I think sometimes there are just, look, Joe Biden was bad in that debate. Everybody saw it, including many Democrats. And that is a thing that is driving the news right now.
You mentioned The Wire earlier, and what was the quote from The Wire? You want it to be one way, but it's the other.
That's
other.
It.
Yeah.
That's it.
So let's see what I wanted to talk to you about. See, I can't even remember.
Other people who could step in.
Certain things. Other people could step in.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got the current vice president.
Mm-hmm.
She's polling better. Do you think? I think she was tested. I don't know. Is she tested for this time around? She ran last time. I think she's a very competent woman. I just saw her this past weekend. You think she can beat Donald Trump?
She's certainly more vetted and tested than anybody else who could do that, right? Like, you can argue about whether being vetted as the VP is the same as being vetted as the president, but it's a hell of a lot more vetted than like a governor or a senator. So if you buy that, and I don't know that most people do, but if you buy that the age thing is a huge problem for Biden, especially among young people, if you nominate someone like Kamala Harris, who's not perfect, who will have her own set of detractors, obviously we know all that, but if you nominate someone who is, in her, I think she's in her 50s, and you take that off the table, do you then bring a lot of young people who Democrats need to win? Do you bring them back to the table? Do you make African-American voters who are obviously supportive, as you said, of Biden, but not as supportive as they were of Obama? Do you get somewhere closer to that Obama number with Kamala Harris? That makes a difference, right? I think we're talking about small margins. So I certainly could make the case for her. I think I don't think Biden ultimately probably steps down. If he does, I think there's an 80% chance that Kamala Harris is the nominee for lots of reasons.
I do too. I mean, again, we're not saying that Joe Biden is going to step down. We're just giving different scenarios here.
Yeah.
You can't leapfrog the sitting vice president.
Very hard,
especially and expect to get women to vote. I mean, it
And
may
black
not be
people.
all women won't,
No,
all women
it's-
aren't going to walk away from
you
you,
can't
right?
do
There's
it.
going to be some, and black people, all
Can't
black
do it.
people are not going to walk away,
No.
but enough. Yeah, you just can't do it.
No.
It's not a good look, right?
No,
It's not a good look.
I just think you have to recognize, like, no matter who you want to be to step in there, like in your like fantasy politics world, the realities of the Democratic Party and of succession are such that, like, she's the sitting vice president of the United States. That's probably enough, but she'd also be, you know, a female presidential nominee, an African-American presidential nominee, an Indian American presidential nominee. I don't see being like, no, not her, but yeah, let's go for the white guy, Gavin Newsom. Like, I just don't, who yes, he's the governor of California, but like, I just don't see it. I don't see it.
Yeah, that would be bad. That would be bad. So Gavin, you say no, it's not. Not that any of these people are not qualified. And again,
Look,
not that we're
to
saying
me-
it's going to happen.
To me, something significant would have to happen for Harris not to be the nominee. I just, there's just too many check marks in her favor. I just, like, I know people like Gretchen Whitmer. I could see her being the VP. You know, she's from Michigan. If Harris is the
women?
nominee, yeah, I think that would be
Do you
history
think this
making.
country
Maybe
would
that's
elect
too much.
two women?
Maybe that's too much.
Do you know
Well,
how
that's what people
sexist
say.
this country is?
People say to me, like, well, what about Harris Buttigieg? And I'm like, okay, well, now you're talking about an African-American woman and a gay man. I don't know. I don't know. Like, it's your like two women point. Like, I don't know if that's.
I can see the DEI ads from the right already.
So I just think I absolutely can see why people would, you know, everyone wants to throw out their favorite politician, right? As like, well, they could be the nominee. Sure, but I think Harris would be the nominee.
Yeah.
I just don't think there'd be that much drama. And by the way, I think even if they did like a open primary thing where they had debates or whatever, I still think she would be the nominee. You know what I mean? Like, even if they didn't sort of coronate her, I still think she would probably be the nominee because she just has a lot of built-in advantages.
Yeah. Speaking of vice presidents, who do you think DJT picks?
Okay. So I have, if you buy, and I'm not totally sure I buy this because I think Trump's whole thing is like wildly unpredictable. He loves that. But if you buy, let's just say you buy that conventional wisdom right now says there are three people in the final, you know, to get the final rose: JD Vance, Doug Burgum, and Marco Rubio. So here are my scenarios for all of them.
So
He
no
picks-
Vivek, no. What's
He's
her
not
name?
picking
No,
Vivek. Vivek has cabinet member written all over him in a Trump administration.
no
in
Nikki
my opinion.
Haley, no.
Oh, he should pick Nikki. Okay.
Gabby.
so
What's her?
Here's
what's her
who
name?
he should pick. Okay. He absolutely should pick Nikki Haley, number one, no question. He won't do it. And if he doesn't pick Nikki Haley, he should pick Tim Scott. He's not going to pick either of them, I think, but that's stupid politically, but whatever. So if he picks Burgum, the message is he thinks he's ahead and he's probably going to win unless something crazy happens. So he goes with sort of the vanilla white guy from the Great Plains. If he picks Vance, it's because Don Jr. got in his ear. Vance and Don Jr. are very good friends. And it's a generational pick, like it's the next heir of Trumpism, blah, 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 blah. If he picks Rubio, I think it's an evidence that he thinks that the race is closer than people are saying right now. Rubio helps him with, theoretically, with Hispanics in particularly Arizona and Nevada. So I think that's sort of those three. Again, he should pick Nikki Haley. To the extent a VP makes any difference, I think she would help him, but he's not going to do that. But because she said bad things about him, and because she's she has charisma and star power, and he doesn't. No one can outshine him.
Yeah, she might overshadow him. Also, though, I mean, but maybe they're going to vote for Donald Trump anyways, but the MAGA folks aren't really happy with her either. So I'm not sure about that.
Right. I agree. But I'm with you. Like, I don't think if he picked Nikki Haley's VP, I don't think a lot of those people are going to be like, that's it, I'm not voting, or certainly not going to say that's it, I'm voting for Joe Biden. Like, I think they're kind of all in no matter what.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, I guess if he picked like Liz Cheney or Adam Kinzinger as his VP, like, but he's not going to do that.
Well, that would be good. That would be great, actually. Hey, can we talk about just real quick here? Our former colleague, Mr. John Avlon, is doing quite well. Who's actually in my district?
Congressional nominee, John Avlon.
Yes, won his, the primary by a landslide in my district in Long Island.
Is that your? I didn't know that was your district.
Yes, it is. I'm in Suffolk.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here's what's intriguing to me. If you said like, all right, Chris, CNN got rid of you. What do you want to do with your life? Which I had to go through. I would not like, I really genuinely think run for office would be literally the last thing that I would put on that list. So more power to John. Like he always has been, I will tell people this. I mean, you know this, Don, but like he is like a very earnest guy who believes in like civic education and
smart as a whip.
Like it's not he's not doing a bit. Like that's really who he is. I mean, I can't imagine wanting to run for office, but I'm happy that I think he is a decent human being he's like you said, very smart. And I think he has a moral compass and like Democrat, Republican, whatever. We need more of those kind of people in Congress.
Yeah. Well, I can't believe he did it, but he's doing a really great job. And for me, it's like, wow, what am I going to do? Am I going to have to donate money for the first time ever to a political campain? It's so weird to me to have to think about that because I've never been in a position to do that before.
To do it. Totally agree. Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean,
so look, everybody in the comments, hit the thumbs up, hit the like and subscribe. Where do we find you, Chris Cillizza?
Okay, it's easy. Go to Substack and just type my name, Chris. Like go to Google and type Chris Cillizza, Cillizza, Substack. It will come up. Go to YouTube. Go to youtube.com/Chris Cillizza. Same thing. Chris, normal spelling, CHRIS, CILLIZZA. All my stuff is there.
Yeah.
And it's so good to see you, by the way. I don't get to see you nearly as much anymore, and I miss seeing you. Handsomest man on television / streaming.
Well, listen, do you like my studio?
I do.
It's not my studio. I'm actually I'm at a publishing house and I'm doing the audio for my book. So, the producer and technician is standing right behind me. You want to say hi? You want to say hi? She's standing right behind me. I'll put her up.
Yeah.
So she's waiting for me to finish so we can get back to the business of doing this book. Say hi. How's the book? What do you think of the book?
It's so good. Get the book, get the audio book.
There you go. So you guys
that is a weird experience, by the way. Reading your own book. I did that for mine. It's kind of weird, right?
I hate it. And the thing is
a grind.
It's a grind. I've been here for 2 days, and
totally.
What did we leave last night? Almost like 9:30.
Yeah, we were here till 9:30.
We were here till 9:30 last night. And the thing is, it's not just like reading, like you read news copy, you read a regular book. Because if I was just reading my book, I would have been done with it already. But you have to be like, good evening, my friends. Welcome to Lemon Live at 5. Or not quite. Obviously, this is Don Lemon Live at 7. Like every word has to be perfect. And then I read a whole section and she goes, no, I don't like it. Let's go back over. Start at the top. I'm like,
It made me so self-conscious because you're sitting in like a room, right? It's like a soundproof room. And I'd be reading or whatever. And they'd be like, I think I heard a little stomach gurgle there.
Yes.
Can we, go do it? And I'm like, oh my God, my stomach is constantly making noises.
You heard that?
I think I heard a little choke in there. I think I heard some saliva.
Said there was you're kind of nasally, and then she'll say, I heard a little mouth gargle, or I'm like, oh my God.
It makes you so self-conscious. That's all I remember. It's a nightmare.
So make sure you buy the book. It's called I Once Was Lost, My Search for God in America. You can pre-order it on Amazon right now. We'll put the link on the community page, or we can put the link up now if you can, Nikki. But Chris Cillizza, love having you.
Thank you, my friend.
You got to write another
book.
book.
To do anytime.
Yeah, you have to come into the studio in New York, and we have to.
That would be fun.
Have a conversation.
I would love that.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
So you be well. Tell everyone you're in DC, correct?
I am.
Tell everyone in DC I said hello. Okay.
I will. Thank you, my friend. So good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. That was Mr. Chris Cillizza, everyone. So we really appreciate you joining us on Lemon Live at 5. As I said, we're doing a little bit of testing out something different because there's Tiffany behind me, because we're gearing up for the Republican convention next week, and we sort of want to be in line with them. If you like, don't be afraid to tell us. If you like us at 5 o'clock Eastern, let us know. If you like us at this time, let us know. But I have a feeling we're going to go back to our 5 o'clock Eastern time, so we'll see. So I'm going to get back to work on the book. You guys go and pre-order the book, and then we'll see you tomorrow at 5 o'clock somewhere. Bye.